SwayamPrabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome back. Today we will talk about one new tool which is related to again only for arm, neck and this particular region. Okay. So the name of this tool is hand arm risk assessment method. So you can understand from the nomenclature that it is mostly related with arm. Okay. However, arm is connected to your neck, shoulder. So we will be talking about those body parts as well. Similar to okra, it is mainly related to the distal upper extremity, mainly the upper extremity. Okay. So this particular tool again used where you have some kind of force exertion along with some repetitive movement with your hand and arm. Okay. So let us understand the introduction part and we will go for the procedure. So this tool is for assessing the risk of arm, neck and shoulder. So you understand neck, shoulder and your arm. So normally what happens due to industrial revolution, most of us, like the worker who is working at the different workplaces, we are sitting in a particular condition, maybe sit stand workstation or a complete sitting workstation, but we are involved in a particular job where mostly our upper extremities, upper body is involved. So we are not moving a lot. So that is why there are a lot of development happen, and these are the regions specifically neck, shoulder and of course when you are sitting back, okay, trunk. Okay, so these are the major group of muscles which are going to get exposed towards different risk factors of musculoskeletal disorder. So there are lot many tools available which is talking about upper extremity. So this tool is also very specific to the upper extremity, neck, arm and shoulder. And of course this is very specific when the operator is involved for any manual task. So the assessment is performed on a specific task selected, not the employee, and it is not performed every day. To check whether the job involves any task that process high risk over a work shift. So when we are talking about the whole task, the task that we are going to consider, what is the condition, what is the situation or status of that particular task in the whole job or whole work shift. Okay, that we are going to understand through this. This particular tool HARM helps in getting an insight on what kinds of health risks a worker may attain at the job site. Most importantly, risk factors which is associated with the work can be identified with this particular tool, and you can develop a guides in determining which intervention method is likely to have the most benefit. So it gives a direction that which type of intervention may help the situation at the maximum level. So optimizing between the intervention point and the work situation, that can be done using this particular tool. So the task can be defined as a series of force exertion that have a common purpose. So there is a goal of doing some task and there are some kind of force exertion to do so. So, we are going to analyze all those series of tasks, okay, which is having a common goal, and it is to achieve that goal we are exerting some kind of force. The defined task can be broad, maybe it's a long task, or it can be very small, as long as what is included and what is not included are known to you. So, definition of the task that you are going to use for this particular analysis is very important. Before you start the analysis, what you need to do? You need to define the task. It can be long enough or it can be very small, but once you know what it is, then it is easy for you to do the analysis. Then force exertion are the components within a task that involve the application of a force. Okay? This can be applied to a task that take longer than 1 hour per day in a total, only on tasks that involve one-handed force, only with one hand. So, one-handed force exertion of less than 6 kg per 60 Newton. So, all hand and arm tasks other than computer work. So, computer work you cannot assess using this particular tool. Unsuitable for tasks that primarily involve activities of the back and legs. Okay. So, you cannot assess anything which is related to where you need involvement of back and neck, and can be used in industrial and service sector, both the cases, like in industrial sector as well as service sector, whereas you need to remember that these assumptions need to be fulfilled. If these assumptions are not fulfilled, then you will not be able to get the correct results using this particular tool. So, online harm assessment method involves 6 steps in total, and paper based, if you are doing it paper based, so it has 2 modalities. If you are doing in pen and paper, in that case it has 8 steps. Now, I will be discussing the basic steps of it. If you are using online, so software will help you to get the job done within 6 steps, whereas if you are doing with pen and paper, because basic calculations will be done by the done in the back end when you are doing it with the online. Okay, but if you want to do it offline like with pen and paper, then you have to do 2 more extra steps. The assessment involves the selection of categories in each step for which scores are assigned. On the basis of the total score calculated, the presence of health risk in the task can be determined. Okay, so based on the score, final score, you will get the final interpretation, and then only you can understand where the intervention program can start. So, let us understand the detailed procedures. This is the outline of the procedure. First, you need to observe it, select the task which you are going to assess. So, defining the task. So, starting point and ending point. As I mentioned earlier, it can be long enough, it can be very small as well. Once you select it, then you have to give the scoring of different aspects. You have different factors to consider, as we do in JSI or MFA or RULA. So, you have different factors. You give the scoring. Here also you will be giving the scoring, and once you have the scores, then what you will do? You will do the risk assessment. So, let us go into detail. The paper-based harm HARM assessment method has 8 steps, and each step has some sub-steps. Okay, we will be discussing. So, mainly they are task duration, most active hand, which is like left hand or right hand. So, you have to find that, force score, posture score, vibration score, some other external factors, and once it is done, then what you have to do the calculate the risk, total risk score and risk assessment. You can understand from all these are compulsory steps that you need to follow or you need to do. For online, maybe these part like can be done in the back end and you will get the results directly. However, for your case, when you are doing in pen and paper, you have to perform it by yourself. Apart from these, two separate worksheets are to be used for generating the force and posture data. We will understand them in detail. So, first is the task duration score. In that you have small sub steps, step 1A, 1B and 1C. What are these? Also 1D. So, what are these? It says the total time duration of a task over the course of an average working day. Okay. So, it is not that you observe the task for only one day. You have to observe it for a period. So, from that you have to take the average calculation. So, the total time duration of the task over the course of an average working day, all time the period should be added together. Okay. So, indicate the time duration only for the day that the task occur. So, 10 hours maximum. Okay. So, you can say that what is happening there, and here then you can calculate the score. Now, step B, how many days per week does that particular task occur? So, first is in a day how many hours they are doing. The second step is if they are doing the task, then that particular task in a whole week how many times they are doing. So, for 1 or 2 days per week, you have to deduct 1 point from the score. If the for 3 or more days, then score remains the same. So, you are getting a score over here, like suppose for example, I am doing the task for 7 hours. Okay. So, the result is 6 over here. Now, if we are in this particular case, then it is 6 minus 1, it is 5, whereas this is remain same as 6. Okay. Coming to the next step, is a break of at least 7.5 minutes taken every 1.5 hours? If yes, so you are considering the recovery period, right? So, if some kind of rest, okay, 7.5 minutes of break if you are taking after each 1.5 hours while doing that particular job, then you need to deduct that minus 1, like you have to deduct 1, or if no, there is no break, then what you have to do, the score remain same. Now, here the break is it is there in the whole annexure in the actual paper. So, breaks are lunch break, your minute break, or your between two tasks there is a small break. So, such all breaks you need to consider. Then final is the score like step D, which says the calculate the task duration score. So, if the task duration score is less than 1, then score is 1. So, you have to get this value. Okay. So, this is for step 1, that is task duration score. Fine. Next is step 2 involves identifying the most active hand in the selected task. Either it will be left or right. Okay. So, you need to identify that particular part, which hand is mostly active. The next step is the force calculation, that is force score. What it says? It indicates which hand is the most active. So in the step 2 you identified, suppose for an example your dominating hand is right hand. Okay, so for here we will be going for the right hand. So very similar forces should be assessed as one and the same force. So how do you do? Here also you have step A, step B and step C. So 3A, 3B, 3C. So let us understand first the step 3A. It says that you need to identify the amount of force. Okay, what is the amount of force? Two types. Now how? This is the description. So light pressure with fingers which is holding or grasping, for example sorting letters, objects, some small objects, pressing with fingers, using hand to hold the small electric tools, grasping, gripping, holding or attaching parts, pressing firmly, all such activities will be considering. Okay. Next step, that is the step 3B, what you are going to do, that is the duration of force exertion in second, or you have to use it for seconds per minute. What is happening? So duration of force exertion in seconds per minute. Okay, so if it is less than 4, then it is 0, if it is 4 to 30 then 2, then if it is more than 30 then it is 3.5. Next is your number of force exertion per minute, that is the frequency. Here also you have some pre-computed values, so you have to see where you are standing. So 3A, 3B and 3C. So what here we are saying, the amount of force is divided into 3 major sections: low to average, that is less than 100 kg to 1 kg or 1 Newton to 10 Newton, somewhat high to high, that is the 1 kg to 6 kg, 10 or 60 Newton, and the peak force. If the force exertion is more than 6 kg, a different assessment method has to be used, maybe lifting, pushing, pulling. In that case, this small activity, here you can say this is light pressure. So for that only you can see the load weight, right? So if it is less, then only you can use it, otherwise you may not use it. So regarding amount of force, this is the kind of detailed description. It's a table, you can go with this and you can find your exact position. So for recording force exertion, which will be the input of the table 3. So you have to do the calculation from here, force calculation table, and you have to give the input over this particular table. The next part is posture. So posture score for the head or neck and the shoulder and upper arm. Okay, so you can see there are 2 division. One is for the neck and another is for the hand and shoulder and upper arm. So what it says, the head is tilted further forward. Suppose you are here, you are tilting it, okay, this side, so you are tilting it further forward than in the first photograph. So you see this is the position and here it is tilting, okay, and the head is tilted further on the sideways, so this way. So you have to find out the percentage, then you get the score. So these are the scores. Now this is step 4A, that is the neck and head, and this is the posture score for wrist and lower arm. Okay, so and then this is for the wrist and lower arm. What it is, the position, the lower arm is rotated further, okay, lower arm is rotated further than the photograph below. If it is not, then you have to give the score. So you have to see the kind of percentage. Now you can ask that how do you calculate this type of percentage, okay. So what you need to do, you need to understand the basic range of motion and what is happening during their working posture. From there you can have the calculation. So step 4 involves posture assessment. 4A deals with head, neck, shoulder, upper arm posture, and 4B deals with the wrist and lower arm. Understood? It's very easy. From the photograph only you can see what is the current position of your situation, of your case. So you need to refer these photographs for your understanding, for getting your score. This is in detail. So you can say this is the form for recording the posture. So this particular table you can use for your data recording. This table will give you the value, and this table will help you to understand or gather the information at the field. So you take it as a data sheet and you give the ticking and you come back and then you do the calculation at the laboratory. Next step is the vibration, that is the 5A. Okay, vibration intensity which is unknown. Which of these situation applies? So you need to ask what is there. Okay, you have to circle the corresponding score and put this in the gray box here at the bottom of the table. So what is the description? There are few description about the vibration, because you do not know what is the exact amount of vibration, but from the description you have to select the score. So hardly any vibration or no vibration perceived by the user are visible to the accessor. Okay, very small amount of vibration. Now here also two important thing. One is the exposure limit. Okay, how long with that particular risk the person is getting exposed. So suppose there is a small amount of vibration, but the person is getting exposed for longer hours, the impact is very high. So you can see here two major division about the duration of exposure. One is 0 to 4 hours, another is 4 to 8 hours. So first division is very less amount of vibration. Second division says vibration not visible, you cannot see but you can perceive it. Okay. The third is vibration just visible on the lower arm. So your lower arm is little shaking. Of course clearly perceived. You can see the scores are changing, right? Scores are changing, are not very same. The hand, arm and shoulder can be clearly seen to vibrate, and vibration are clearly perceived by the user. For those cases the score is 4. So whichever the score is coming you have to write it down. Okay, here and here you have to write it down which one, because if the exposure level is 0 to 4 then this column, if the exposure level is 4 to 8 then this is this column. Okay. So 5A assigns the vibration score to the task if the vibration intensity is unknown, because most of the cases you will see you do not know what exactly the vibration intensity, because you may not have that particular instrument, vibration meter, that you may not have with you for measuring the vibration. What is the next step? That is the if someone is knowing about the intensity of the exertion or intensity of the vibration. So you can see, if you know the intensity of the exertion, you can see the limit, and according to the exposure score you can give the scoring. It's very easy. This is for unknown intensity and this is for your known intensity. Okay. So step 5B, so anyone, it's not that both will be there, okay, any one will be there. So 5B assigns the vibration score to the task if the vibration intensity is known to you. Some other factors which is going to impact, so we need to understand that breaks can only be taken at set break time. okay, which is predefined. So you have to give the answers, it is yes or no. So dichotomy variable. So work with cold or wet materials is performed without gloves. So you can understand that it is talking about personal protective equipment, exposure to the extreme environmental condition, thermal condition. Disruption to concentration occurs regularly. There is some kind of external factor which is causing disturbance in the actual job. Hand grips are not shaped or are slippery or wet. Stretched fingers or a 2 or 3 fingers pinch grip often occur because large or small materials are gripped or held. So you can understand, if there are something very small, you are holding it like this. So you are using these fingers to hold it, you are taking lot of strength. So if that strength is required for longer hours, you can see these muscle groups, even these muscle groups are somewhere involved, okay. So you are trying to understand what are the other external factors are present. The work performed is a precision task or not. So if it is a precision task, you need the holding your neck posture very firmly. So if you are holding it, because if it is a precision job or precision task, you need lot of hand-eye coordination and concentration. So the work performed is a precision task or not. It requires precise positioning or moving of a finger or hand, such as assembly of a very small pieces of or surgical actions, whatever it is, watchmaking, jewelry making. For such cases, you really need lot of visual concentration. To get that visual concentration, your neck muscles, shoulder muscles, upper trunk muscles, even fingers need lot of force to hold that particular posture. So you are trying to understand those important external influences as well. So these are the other factors. So you have to score them 0 or 5 for each yes for all these cases, okay. So you need to give the value to it. Now you have to give the scoring, okay. You have to calculate that is the step 7, that is the calculate the total risk score. So use the score from the step 1 to 6 from this, then force, then posture, either neck and shoulder and the lower arm and wrist, both the cases. Now vibration, only one, if known or unknown, whatever it is, and then other forces. Then you add all these value together. So you get the total score of A. Now once you get that, then what you have to do with that, you task duration score. You have a task duration score, you have to multiply that, and once you get that score, then it is the calculate the so task duration score, that is the T, and the total score, that is the A. Suppose here you have total score, that is 6, and task duration score, suppose we are going back and taking a random value, task duration score, suppose 6, okay, task duration score suppose 6. So here it is 6, so 6 into 6, it is 36, something like that you will be getting, okay. That is the total risk score. Now this is, I am saying that this we have not touched, this is a random value I have assumed, okay. So you can do for your case. So if it is less than 30, then it is green, that means there is no risk. So no risk for arm, neck or shoulder complaints of for virtually the entire working population. Now it may happen there are some different situation. those situations may be associated with some other factor. If you have, so you have to identify them separately, but approximately we can say they are in safe zone. 30 to 50, that is the amber region. So increased risk for arm, neck, shoulder complaints for some employees. In order to protect all employees, it is important to take the preventive measures that is going to help to lower the risk. And more than 60 or equal to 60 is risk, that is the high risk, red alert. So high risk of arm, neck or shoulder complaints. It is important to take preventive measure immediately. So similarly for other tool, we are also having a kind of region, green, amber and red. So what are the health complaints you supposed to receive for such cases? If there are complaints that are suspected to be related to this task, it is always important to identify the risk factors and you need to take the preventive measure. So this is the kind of intervention point, interpretation points. Okay, so from these interpretation, what you need to do, you need to take these results further and you have to see which factor is causing. So you have so many factors, you have force, you have posture, you have vibration, you have some other influencing factors, okay, recovery period. So all these factors, among all these factors, which is causing the enhancement of the total score, you need to identify that and from there you have to go for the design changes or intervention program. Maybe it is manpower calculation, maybe it is work rest cycle calculation, maybe it is the redesigning of the workstation, or it can be anything else. Okay, so this is how you are going to use harm. So what is the approximate time? So new users may take up to 1 hour for assessing this particular task. Based on the actions involved and the available information, the base assessment time can be less than 30 minutes for an experienced user. Okay, so what do you need? You need pen and paper, and if you have a software like online version available with you, then you with the pen and paper, whatever information you are collecting, you can transfer it to them and they will give you the final results. So vibration meter, sometimes if you want to precisely measure the vibration, you can have the vibration meter. Force measurement device to understand the exertion of force. Stopwatch, definitely you are talking about the duration of exposure, and a video recorder. Okay, with the video recorder you can have the clear picture that when and how it is happening. Okay, now I will tell here, it is not written about the advantages and disadvantages of this tool. Still I would like to mention over here, this tool is only applicable where your upper extremities, okay, so shoulder, arm, neck and these parts, wrists are involved. Only for those cases you can use it, whereas if it is weight limit of this manual handling is more than some 60 kg, then it is not possible to use this particular tool. For that case you need to do the some kind of pulling, pushing, lifting, or like Leo's lifting equation or MAC or any other tool. This tool in that case will not be applicable. So this and also the advantage of this tool is you get a very clear picture of the situation of that particular task. So you cannot have multiple assessment of multiple tasks at a time. You have to do it separately, you have to compare it separately. Also the advantage of this tool is it can give you a better understanding if you do an intervention, what is the impact of that intervention. So if you have a before data and after data, you can have a comparison and you can understand that is there any positive impact of your intervention in that particular task or not. That's all for harm. I suggest again similarly what I do for all other tool, you practice, you take an example, you practice it, calculate it and try to understand how you can take it further for your own research studies. Okay, if you have question, you can come back and we can discuss it in our discussion forum. Thank you.